Fit for Life Radio, episode 194. Will is here.
Am I?
You are?
I'm not.
And Gary is here?
Gary's here.
I am. And today, we're going to be diving in on how long does it take to form a habit?
What's the old old thing that everybody says? 21 days?
21 days.
21 days to make a habit.
If I go to the gym for 21 days in a row,
it'll be a habit for the rest of my life.
It'll be a habit. I just got to get through that.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, yeah. So, it came from plastic surgeon Maxwell Maltz. Okay, so
that sounds like a character. Like, you're not real, Maxwell Maltz.
In the 1960s, he wrote that if how did we get here?
I don't know.
I'm reading this and I'm like, how did we get here from this dude? This is why you can't trust. Don't even trust us.
You can't trust nothing.
Don't
man.
trust us either.
Nothing.
In the 1960s, he wrote that it took plastic surgery. And then I'm like, how much plastic surgery was going on in the 19th? Can you imagine the trust
60s?
In the 60s?
They didn't have things down very well back then.
You must have been really wanting a new nose or something. Did they do boobs back then?
They had to have, right?
I don't know.
In the 60s? I wasn't alive. I don't know.
Google it. Get that on your Google history.
60s boob jobs.
In the 1960s, he wrote that it took plastic surgery patients about 21 days to get used to the new mental image of themselves.
How is that even related to forming a habit? Like, it's not even in the same ballpark.
So isn't it crazy that that's where it started, and then people are like, now can correlate it with like the habit of exercise, right, or whatever. And we'll get into this. So there's going to be a research review here of is this true, and how long does it take? And as with most stuff,
that's where all the 21-day challenges came from.
Yeah,
this guy.
And you can imagine that learning to get used to the new mental image of yourself versus
going to the gym. They couldn't be more different.
There's probably going to be a difference, right?
Well, here's one thing: like the new image of yourself, you got to get used to it. There's not really an option. Like it's there, it's changed. You've been cut. Mm-hmm. Good luck.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing than like I got to go to the gym.
Yeah. I mean, I see people who do like juice cleanses and stuff that these certain diets, and they're like, you just need to stick to it for 21 days to make a new habit. People just say stuff
and then believe it.
They just say it. Now, don't get me wrong, and it's probably stuck around and it works because who wouldn't want that to be the case? Just do it 21 days. Sounds real,
It's 3 weeks.
Sounds easy enough.
Yeah. It's a short commitment.
But Katy Milkman.
I'm telling you, these aren't real people. There's no way.
Wait, it's not even Kathy. Katy.
Get it right.
K-A-T-Y.
Katy Milkman.
Katy Milkman. K-A-T-Y. I've never seen Katy spelled like that. Have you?
Yeah. How have you never seen that?
I don't know.
You're not paying attention.
It's an H away from Kathy.
It is an H away from Kathy.
A professor at the University of Pennsylvania and one of the top behavior change scientists in the world sought to find out how long does it actually take to stick to a new health practice. So we thought this was cool because this directly correlates to what we do and our clients and stuff. And so they did the study. They looked at two very different habits: going to the gym and hand washing by hospital workers. So I like this study because they had tons of data, right?
A lot of it.
So yeah, and then they broke it down with machine learning, which is probably better than human learning. So
in some ways,
especially in data,
with large swaths of data, it's easier.
So obviously, we know that both can be good for your health. Now, going to the gym is just thought of as, hey, something we should do for our health, whereas health or hand washing by hospital workers is required.
Yeah, you got to do it
by health and safety regulations, right? So those two things right there are going to make a difference, right? One's literally required. So obviously those people have a lot more incentive to stick to it. But ultimately, they worked with a major gym chain, and obviously gyms, like, you got to scan your card, attendance is tracked. So they kept track of 30,000 members, gym check-ins over the course of 4 years. So every time someone, swiped their card, it was recorded. And then for the hand washing, they monitored around 3,000 healthcare workers over 100 shifts. The workers used special badges that recorded when they washed their hands. The other thought that popped in my head was then there's also going to be a little thing, like if you have a special badge, that's
you might be more likely to do it.
Recording you to, wash your hands and it's part of your job, you're going to be more likely to do it.
You don't want them to see like, oh, they've barely washed their hands.
So obviously, like, to me, that could like skew the data, but then it also shows to me like it's actually kind of a solution too, right?
Yeah, like it makes them do it, and that clearly forms this habit over time.
So if you know that even something like that, if someone knows they're part of a study and they have a special badge to make sure they do this thing, man, what if you apply some element of that to your, I want to go to the gym, right? So, and we kind of done that with our gym in that, hey, we have only a set amount of spots, and you need to reserve your spot ahead of time. So, again, that's ways to hopefully make it more likely for people. But anyways, so obviously, like you see, huge amount of data for both of them, and basically what it found was, again, shouldn't be a surprise,
this makes sense.
It took people longer to develop the habit of going to the gym than washing their hands.
Which they're two different tasks, right? In terms of how in-depth they are.
21 days to make a habit, right? Well, guess what?
To get used to your nose.
That's not the case, probably, for something like exercise.
Not at all.
Now, the findings were really cool and interesting, and I think are super applicable to helping people.
Applicable.
So on average, it took people about 2 weeks to form a hand washing habit. 14 days. So 14 days you're washing hands. 21 days you like your new nose or boobies or whatever. So
maybe you got hair plugs. Maybe you got hair plugs.
Yeah, or hair, right? Unfortunately, you're probably not ingraining that gym habit in 14 or 21 days.
No.
So, and actually, in contrast to that, for people going to the gym, on average, it took 4 to 7 months to establish the habit of going to the gym.
Way longer.
Yeah. Yep.
And that, might help some people out a little bit to know, like, all right, I'm not going to all of a sudden start going to the gym and then in a couple weeks, I'm just like, this is a habit for life. Like, it takes a while.
Yeah, and some easy speculation is, well, we do it less frequently. You could be washing your hands multiple times a day. It's more complex, right?
It takes like a way longer amount of time. Washing your hands a minute. If you're like doing it in a hospital setting.
Wet hand, soap hand, rub hand, dry hand, right? So the gym is way more effort, way more complex. So it makes sense that it should take longer, right? So the reality is, like, thinking is you do it for 3 weeks, 21 days, and snap,
boom,
you're
on a gym
good
rat for life
is wishful thinking. So now some cool things takeaways was this was a key thing that we would want to be, hey, what's the
takeaway
from this podcast, right? And it is that they noticed that the frequency to degree, so whether you went like more frequent or less frequent, wasn't as important for the behavior as going on a predictable schedule.
Yeah, so whether you went 2 days every week or 6 days every week, you're going to stick that habit the same.
Exactly. And a lot of times be like, 21, I'm going to go to the gym every day for 21 days. That's probably not the approach to take. It seems to be like, again, picking a schedule that you can be predictable and consistent with, whether it's just 2 days a week, is your best bet, right? And the other most important factor was what they called was time lag. So, and this one's obvious, right? Like, so the longer it's been since you've gone to the gym, the less likely you were to go again, right?
And
so
we noticed that just personally in our,
if all of a sudden you're like, it's been 3 weeks, 3 weeks will more than likely easily turn into 3 months and then 3 years.
Yeah, and there's a lot, there's a lot of different stuff associated with that. Like there's probably some shame and things like that.
Yep.
That
guilt.
People feel. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then two other things were, so people who tended to go to the gym on the same days of the week were more likely to continue in that pattern. Right?
Which makes sense. It's a routine.
And this is something we've always said too to clients. We talked about like, don't miss a Monday. Well, there is some psychological benefit to that. So they noticed going to the gym on a Monday and Tuesday were the most important day of the week predictors, which kind of leans itself into, like, unfortunately it's like, new week, start of the week, but there obviously is a strong pull to that, because when people do go on those weeks on Monday or Tuesday, it seems to have helped them stay consistent.
It mentally,
right?
like, kind of sets that schedule and routine for you.
So technically, if you get there on Monday, you're more likely to set yourself up for a week of success.
And again, that's something that we've noticed with the gym, like, over years. And that's always going to be the truth. So,
yeah, and again, this was pulled from, like,
a lot of people.
Chain gym, 30,000 people over a long period of time. And, ultimately, I think the best takeaway is, for one, you want the right expectations, right? So don't, because you didn't fall in love with the gym or nail it down as a consistent habit after going for a month or 21 days, that's completely normal.
You're not a failure. It's if you think about us, like, we've been doing this for a very long time. We started working out probably, playing sports or sometime in high school, and, it didn't automatically stick, but we've been doing it for so long that, it eventually is just a habit. It's part of our life. Yep. And for somebody starting new, they didn't have all of that time before that we had and the association with it. So it's hard. It's hard to break through into something new, especially as we get older. Yeah.
And I would say the best approach is to start small and sustainable, right? Because it seems to be, if like you said, the strongest thing they had was, if you have predictable days and you can make it, and you make it on those days, you're more likely to succeed and create the habit over that 6 months or so. And the best way to do that, I think, is to pick an amount that's actually sustainable. So if you're starting out and you're excited and you say, I'm going to go Monday through Friday, well, the reality is, if you actually struggle to go all of those 5 days and you miss a day, you are more likely then to fall off,
to just abandon ship,
not make it back. Yeah, and abandon ship. Whereas if you literally just started and said, I'm going to go on Monday and Wednesday, and that was it, you're more likely to then actually stick with that and make it the long haul, right? And then, as we know, going 2 days a week consistently for years is better than going 6 days a week for 3 months straight and then falling off for years, right? So, again, it's not exciting. It's not sexy.
No, it's not beast mode.
But everything comes back to,
just do it.
Do a little and do it consistent.
If you know me, I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's 1 scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
They did find as well that, so challenges and 21-day programs and kind of like rewards like that. So interesting enough, they don't seem to help everyone, but they help people who struggle with a predictable schedule. So the reality is that external pull of a challenge or whatever,
it can kind of put somebody into a little bit of a consistent routine.
Seems to pull them along a little further. But then the problem is you have to learn how to take the momentum of a challenge and turn it into like true change. Because doing a challenge,
you can't rely on a challenge.
Yeah, it's not true change, right? Because they're not going to be long enough, as we see, to make it a habit. So
no one's doing a 6-month challenge.
If you find yourself all over the place, you can't nail stuff down into a predictable schedule, then yes, a challenge can be great to pull you back in or get you started. But then you have to figure out a way to iron things out.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to use a challenge, is to think like, all right, I'm going to use this to set myself up, but it's not going to solve my problem.
Yep. And then ultimately, too, you got to avoid which comes back around to, hey, what's the least amount you can do sustainably? Because ultimately, avoiding doing nothing for a long period of time is what you want to avoid. Because, again, the longer we don't do it, it's such a like snowball. It's like the longer we don't do it, the more likely length of time we're not going to get back to it.
You get almost into the habit of doing nothing, and then that becomes the habit. Right? The lack of activity or going to the gym or whatever the habit we want to do is like.
It's like this weird black hole. You almost can't even explain it, because it's like every day you go longer not doing it,
you fall in a little more.
It's going to be longer that you get back to it. And then you just think about that little warp of time, right? Like
it's a hard thing to when you're in it for people, because like there is no real drive or motivation, and you feel like you're, essentially in a hole, and there's no, end in sight, and that's a time where it sucks, but you just have to kind of grit through it a little bit, because it's not going to be fun. Like a lot of times people's first day back to the gym, like it's not the best. They're like, man, I don't even want to be here.
Yep.
But if you can get through that, you're going to get back to that habit, and you'll, reap the rewards and the benefits, and it'll feel better. But there is that time where you are adjusting to like doing something again. Like I have to change my habit again.
Yeah. I would even say you break it down. Me, I love a good minimum effective dose.
Always.
We see this, right? Like when people get, like things get hectic or whatnot, and then it's like, well, let me go on hold, or let me freeze, or I'm going to take a break. But it's heartbreaking because, and we see this most of the time, people do that. They never make it back. Or like 3 years go by, and then they finally are like, oh my gosh, I'm in a worse place, and they feel further away, and it's a whole different ball game. So kind of looking at this, my takeaway is like, I think a lot of people, if you have to scale down, dial down, first of all, you never want to think flipping that light switch off.
No.
You want to dial it back. So imagine if you just dial your expectation back to like, I'm just going to go once a week on Monday. But then the reality is, we know. What do you think will happen a lot of times if you just get in on Monday?
You're probably going to come at least another day.
You're probably going to end up, exactly. Because now you have this positive momentum. You got that quote unquote fresh start of the week.
You got a win at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, and we see that here. So don't even put the pressure and say, if I'm going to go 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday. Just say I'm going to go on
Monday.
Only just pencil in on your calendar for Monday.
I tell people that a lot.
And you know what?
Like, just get in on Monday.
Worst case, you still got in. You have a predictable schedule.
Yeah, every Monday you work out.
And if you can't prioritize 1 hour a week, even knowing, hey, yeah, you may not reach your peak, but you're maintaining and you're keeping that, not even just maintaining your physical, your strength, your conditioning, but maintaining the schedule, right? Some inkling of a schedule with the stuff so that you don't end up doing nothing. That is powerful.
Because it's just, I think, talk about it a lot, but 1 or 2 workouts doesn't feel like enough for anybody at all. They're like, how can that even change me? You know?
Well, yeah, and it can do a lot.
It can do, I mean, one workout's way better than nothing. If you're doing nothing, then there's no chance.
Yeah.
We're not going to move the needle at all. Mm-hmm. With one workout, at the bare minimum, we're going to at least stay the same over time.
Yeah. It's just wild to me because somehow, especially with, social, like people, you log on, and of course the people you're going to see, and it used to just be the magazines and stuff, but they're the people who do this stuff all the time for a living. But for some reason with fitness and exercise, people think, well, if I can't do it all or compete at this level or be in the sport of this, I'm going to do nothing. But that would be like someone saying they want to play guitar and they have time and it's just a hobby or side thing. And so normally, yeah, you know what? You strum guitar on Fridays with your friends or hanging out and and that's fine, right? Like you have the guitar, you pick it up, you practice a little when you can. But then could you imagine you go to a concert or you pull up Instagram and you see, some famous musician that you look up to, and then they're just shredding, and you're like, you know what? If I can't shred like that,
I just don't even want to do this.
I'm not even going to do this at all. Like, it'd
just be a weird way to look at the world.
Or like even more relatable one, right? Like cooking. Could you imagine? Like, think about us. We're casual cooks, and we've gotten in time. I know I've had times where, like, I really dove into videos and Cooking Network and learn techniques and all this, and I can knows the principles of cooking, right? But then I don't have the time or care or passion to, like, be one of the best cooks or a professional cook, right? And that's fine. But you know what? I can go eat some good food or watch shows and see cooks at that level and appreciate what they do. But could you imagine you then watch, chef challenge show, and then you're like, man, look how good they are.
I'll never be that guy. I'm not going to cook anymore.
Look at their knife skills. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm not making my own meals anymore. I'm not even spreading.
Yeah, it's just such a weird way to think about things.
But that's what people do with fitness.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, look at this person. They ran a 5-minute mile and bench pressed 500 pounds. I saw that the other day. I pull up, it pops up on my Instagram, and it's this dude. It was, cool, right? He like deadlifted 500 pounds, like he had the bar on the track, and then ran a mile, and did it all in under 5 minutes. So it's like, yeah, he's big and jacked. He can deadlift 500 pounds.
Super impressive.
Could run like a 5-minute mile. And do you know how many people would then just not even start? Or was
because they will never
or was stop because they can't or do that, or they think that they need to be able to do that. They don't even understand the sacrifice and all the different nuances and elements. So it's like, why even bother if I can't do that?
Yeah,
or train to do that.
Something to realize, and it takes people time, especially in the fitness world. There was always someone stronger than you. There's always somebody leaner than you. There's always somebody more muscular than you. Like, always. There always will be. You're never going to be like the peak. Yeah. There's like one guy that gets to be the peak,
And then the sad thing is, because I know some of those people, the people who are at the peak are struggling.
Yeah.
Like mentally.
They're not happy about it
It's
either.
not enough, or they're normally the way you get to the peak is you're trying to you got some issues, right? So it ain't even you know,
like a lot of body image issues at that level. So yeah, like it's okay to not be the best. It's fine. And, most of us aren't going to be the best at anything.
And you have to come back to like, what are my goals? What are the benefits, right? Like, I want to be strong and physically capable as I age, and I want to be a healthy body composition. And well, guess what? Like, the way to do that is to lift weights and do some cardio and eat proper portions, right? So you have to separate these things, these habits, like even though they seem like the same stuff as someone who lifts the most weight, it's two separate things, right? One is a sport and a competition, and one is a health practice, right? So if you can separate those habits, and then, like we talked about, and we're getting on a little tangent, but and then also understand that, well, developing these habits for your health, these health habits are harder than most other things, and it's not going to take just 21 days. Now you can really get somewhere.
Yeah. If you have the mentality that, like, this is going to take time for me to work my way into as far as routine goes, then it does make it easier when your expectations are right. Because, again, if your expectation's 21 days, and if I don't get it in 21 days, something's wrong, I might as well stop. Mm-hmm. You're never going to stick.
Yeah.
But if you know it's going to take a long time, then you can grit it out when maybe you don't feel like going, and you're like, okay, I'm still getting into this. It's natural for me to have a lot of resistance and, maybe not be as consistent as I want to be all the time. Like, it's fine. You're figuring it out over this long period of time.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I used to be like anti-challenge, but then I've seen where we've, a lot of people, hey, 21-day nutrition challenge, and it does get people motivated to start, right?
Yeah, and it's not for everybody, and it's okay. Yeah. That's something we had to realize, is like, not everyone's going to benefit, wholly from this. And that's cool. You catch everybody in different ways.
Yeah.
Right? Just like we all digest our media in different ways. Some people love a podcast, some people like to read, and you're going to take something different from each type of media.
Yeah. So let's share some tips on, like, we talked about how you got to take that momentum and turn it into meaningful change. What are some, ways to do that? Going off of a detox or cleanse or challenge. And most of us are familiar with this, right? Like the cycle of, you're excited to start, you're amped up. This is going to be life-changing. You typically then, because it is a challenge, there's normally more restriction, in the beginning. So it could be like a more restrictive form of eating, or like a very aggressive exercise regime, as far as probably like your time commitment. Then you may have some success, right? But then it doesn't last long because neither is it sustainable. And you go back to normal until you're then, hey, let me do another.
Let me get a jump start again.
Yeah, bout of another challenge, another form of excitement. And then you kind of stay on that loop, right? So it's really, how do we take that momentum
and actually get something out of it,
and get off that loop, right? So I think, for one, it's setting the right expectation of knowing, like, the challenge, kind of whatever maybe I'm doing with the challenge, isn't going to be the approach I land on. It's not sustainable. So knowing that going in, and then kind of just seeing it as like, I'm going to try some things to get going, and then pull out
what's useful
for me, and I can apply. Kind of maybe what drives you forward, or what clicks and ticks, and be okay with then the slower progress or more boring approach you're going to settle into. You have to know too, like, everything, it's all going to get, nothing will ever be as exciting as when it started.
Nothing.
And if you expect that kind of excitement, you're doomed.
You're going to be chasing a bunch of different things all the time. And we see that a lot. People that hop gyms all the time and try all these new crazy workout programs and diets. Like, you're always looking for that excitement up front, which is why when things get a little boring, people switch.
Mm-hmm. But then you end up on that, then that becomes your pattern.
That's
right?
Your habit. Your habit is like, all right, well, it's
stopping and switching.
3 or 4 weeks is up. It's time to go get something else.
Yeah. And there's only but so many different.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many things you can do physically and nutrition wise, and then that gets frustrating for people when they're like, "Why haven't I changed?"
Yeah.
Well,
especially when the principles or underlying principles are the same, right? It's like we talked about in the last one. Really, it's calorie deficit, protein, resistance training. Okay. You know,
and how many times can you repackage that?
Yeah, exactly. So you can resistance train holding a dumbbell. You can resistance train holding a kettlebell. Oh, look, you can resistance training holding a kettlebell that's shaped like a gorilla. You know, you can calorie restrict. This is where people get confused with diet, right? Like every diet is just a form of calorie restriction, right? Whether you know it or not, like that's the reason it worked. If you're trying to lose weight, so you could do keto. Oh, look, you cut out all carbs. Well, guess what? And it helped you calorie restrict. Or, oh, look, I went vegan. Oh, you cut out all animal product foods. Well, you cut out a lot of calories. It helped you calorie restrict, right? Oh, intermittent fasting. Oh, you stopped eating all the time whenever you want it and only eat between 12 and 8. Well, it helped you restrict calories, right? So, and again, not even picking on any of those. All those can work, right? That's why they work. Now, which one can you work sustainably? That's really what it comes down to. There's no magic.
There's no magic.
It's really like, and yeah, it's actually, hey, yeah, explore these things, right? This is why it takes time. You got to maybe find an approach that works for you, that's realistic and sustainable.
But they can all work. Mm-hmm. It's just which one sticks with you.
Yeah. And then the reality is exercise, you're going to have even less options and variety, because at the end of the day, our body's our body, right?
It only moves in so many different ways.
Yeah. And especially then when you get into the benefits of resistance training, well, resistance training is using your body as levers and moving either your body, or weight around your body, and you need to do it controlled and with focus, right, and intent. So ultimately, there's only so many different ways you can push weight away from your body, pull weight towards your body, and you do it long enough, like a year, you've done it all, right? So it's gonna get somewhat boring, right? But then the problem is you say, oh, I'm bored with this, I'm gonna stop. Well, now there's really no other activity to replace what it.
Yes, you're gonna get weaker.
The benefits it provides. So then you're just, we use this analogy a lot. It's like brushing and flossing. I mean, you could get bored of brushing and flossing and then decide I'm going to go spend more time on my hair or on other activities.
But nothing's going to replace brushing and flossing.
Exactly.
Nothing's cleaning your teeth.
And then slowly but surely, you're like getting in worse oral health, right? So you just have to leverage these activities, and they just have to be automatic habits. That is how resistance training is, right? So if you stop resistance training to go do jazzercise, right? You stop resistance. I'm bored. I'm going to go do
this other thing. Now you're not getting the benefits.
They're not interchangeable.
They're not.
Now, you know what the other things are interchangeable with? Like cardio.
Yeah.
Cardio, like you move your body in some way, you get your heart pumping, you're getting some cardiovascular training. Dude, whether you do that ice skating, whether you do that dancing,
playing basketball,
whether you do that playing basketball, whether you do that with some little HIIT class where you're hopping around all the time, whether you do that with sexy time.
It all works.
It does. Have at it.
Like resistance training is its own thing.
Yeah.
And you can't replace it. And people think it's interchangeable with Pilates and yoga and cardio classes, and I just don't think that it is.
Yeah.
I think it's its own thing, and all of those other things can complement it well.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, resistance training, you need to press. Say you're pressing, weight away from your body, you're pulling weight towards your body, and you're squatting weight with your legs. Well, you can push a dumbbell. You can push a kettlebell. You can push some cable resistance. You
can push a machine.
You can push a barbell. You can push a machine. So you can change the implements to keep yourself. But again, eventually, too, there's only but so much, right? And you're just doing the same thing. So you have to just eventually.
You got to be okay with it.
Be okay with it,
Like it's not Like, you're not going to the circus every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to a theme park and doing this vastly exciting, overstimulating thing. It's just
it's a vehicle. At the end of the day, you got to drive from point A to point B. Yes, you could do it with a Honda Civic. You could do it with a Nissan Pathfinder. You could do it with a Lamborghini, right? And you could change the car every day, but you still need to get from point A to point B in a motorized vehicle, right? So if you decide, like, the motorized vehicle is boring.
What are you going to replace it with?
You can't, you know what I'm saying? So that's the way you have to start looking at it, right? And at the end of the day, most of us only have, but so many options, right? Now you could try, like, riding a Stegosaurus.
Let's go.
But then you're going to find out, well,
that ain't it.
Man, I'm just really trying to entertain myself, and now I'm searching for all this novelty, right? Because my car ride to work is boring. So, but if I rode a Stegosaurus to work,
it'd be more engaging.
And then guess what? You get a Stegosaurus and ride it to work, and after about 2 weeks,
you're like, "Damn, this is the same." I want
to ride a pterodactyl to work. And now you're going everywhere looking for a pterodactyl, right? And then next thing you know, you can't find a pterodactyl. Now you can't get to work
because you don't want to drive a car.
And now 3 years go by, and you didn't get to go to work, and everything's crumbling because you got too bored driving your Nissan Pathfinder.
Just drive.
Yeah, just drive.
It's okay.
And just accept, you know what? My drive to work's not going to be the most exciting thing, but I'm going to do it.
Most people do that.
Yeah. And you know what? And to tie this back in, like, that's how you develop the habit of exercise, really.
It is.
You have to eventually hit that mindset, because if you hold this ungodly expectation of it, you're going to get bored and stop. And then, like we see from the study, is like, and then if you stop and don't do nothing, and that day after day grows,
it takes so much longer to get back to it.
Exactly.
So just, show up consistently. Whatever it means. Yeah. 1 day, 2 day, 5 days, 7 days. Just whatever works for you.
And I know there's people that listen and they're like, it doesn't have to be that way. I'm going to, it can be fun and I can bounce around. And it's just like, people, this is like, people that do it for years, I don't know anyone that hasn't given in to the monotony of it and embraced it, right?
And it's okay. It's not like this is a boring, mundane task. Like, it's engaging for me, and I love it. I just know it's going to be the same thing, and your mindset around it shifts.
Yeah.
Like, I still look forward to it.
It can become, exactly. Well, I mean, it's like meditative, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's great.
Then when you spin it around, there's lots of things that we look forward to that are the same, and that is why we look forward to them. So if you can, like...
they're predictive.
Exactly. Find, hey, this is actually a predictive, stable thing in my days and weeks to look forward to. It takes a new perspective, and it's easier to embrace that way. Like, I say all this in that, like, I love and look forward to it, and now it's been almost 20 years, and it's not boring, right? It's repetitive in its nature, but to me, that doesn't mean it's boring.
No.
And now, I went through a phase where I'm like, oh, let me try all this different stuff. But then if you do it long enough and you realize there's not only but so much you can do, to where eventually you start to shift away from what's effective. Same thing. Like, I was watching, perfect example, watching football, right? And these pizza, and I'm like, hey, dude, think about this. At the end of the day, if you get like a pepperoni pizza over the last 30 years since you could chew food and be wise enough to make a decision on what you want to eat, pizza's great.
Yeah.
And this week, you're more likely you're just going to get a pizza. And 10 years from now, you're probably going to be having a slice of pizza. But then it's wild. I see these commercials, and they're like, the pizza commercials advertise everything except for pizza. And they have every year, there's something new variation of something that I'm like, that's not even, no one's asking for it. It's novelty. Now I get it. They're playing to people. then see that novelty and they got to have
and it's exciting.
And they order it once and then they never eat it again. But the one I was seeing now, and it's like the stuffed cheesy bread, and then they were just mind-blowing, otherworldly, decided to then also stuff with the cheesy bread pepperoni. So then I'm thinking, dude, that's just pepperoni pizza. Like, what is going on? Like,
but it's repackaged.
Why can't we just have regular pepperoni pizza? Why do we have to then? Well, let's invert the crust and stuff cheese and pepperoni inside it. I'm like, by the time you put it all in your mouth, it's the same bite. You're getting cheese, pepperoni, and bread.
But it's enticing.
It's wild.
People want it.
It's wild.
I know.
It makes
and
me
then they
crazy.
have the ones where like there's like little things you can pull off the crust. You know, like first off, that sounds like a worse experience to me. But at the end of the day, like I'm always coming back to a plain pep pizza. Yeah. That's it. I just want a pepperoni pizza because nothing beats it, and it's like a beautiful simplicity.
Yeah,
and you don't need the excitement.
And
the excitement is not better
when you settle on that.
You're good,
and you don't get that anxiety of like that FOMO. Dude, I don't need to have like, oh, then you start noting, and that's the other thing of you do it long enough. You do it long enough, you eat enough pizza, you watch enough commercials, they just come out with something weird every time. You do it long enough, you know, I'm ordering my regular ass pizza.
Because it's good.
You know? Like, that's how I am with my training. You do it long enough, you're like, I'm doing my basics consistently.
Because I like it, and it works, and it's great.
I'm not going to get caught up with
the excitement of the new flashy.
Some French thing, yeah. Yeah.
It's basics, man. Pepperoni pizza.
Give me a burger and a milkshake. Give me a pizza. Give me... I saw this, I started thinking through, like, all food. Dude, the best stuff's, like, already been invented.
We're not really...
You know?
Like, at this point, we're just, like, fluffing up all these things.
Well, and look at, like, chips and stuff.
Yeah. All of the wild flavors, none of them are very good.
Yeah.
They're really not. You know, you come back to, like, salt and vinegar, barbecue.
Sour cream and onion.
Sour cream. Like, those are all tried and true.
Yep.
They're the best.
And you know when you eat, like, I mean, I've been on my kick, but like...
What have you been on?
Well, I told you, remember on a potato kick?
Oh, yeah.
But dude, when you eat a potato with butter and salt...
It's good.
And maybe some vinegar.
It's good.
Like, and then you realize, then when you know the principles of cooking, umami, you know, salt, and just the different, like, those profiles, and then you can see it all in, like, the most basics of dishes.
And why it's so good.
And why they taste good, you know? And I'm like...
It checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, pizza checks every single box.
Yep.
Burger, same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm hungry now.
Sushi.
Ooh, yeah. I love sushi. Good
basics.
Burger, though.
But then, dude... I mean, I'm sure there's some crazy sushi stuff, right? Or were people...
I'm sure there is. I mean, generally sushi, like, overall is pretty simplistic.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be crazy stuff.
No, I've seen it. I remember when I was in California, this place was selling, like, a sushi burger, right? And this was when I was young and dumb.
You got it, and it wasn't even that good of an experience, was it?
It was a letdown of sushi and...
A letdown of burger.
A letdown of burgers.
Yeah, like you didn't...
It was a worse version of both of them. So it was 100% novelty. That's like when people take like weight training and do a bunch of circuits and no rest with it.
Yeah. It's so like, now you made like some crappy cardio with some crappy weightlifting.
Yeah, it's kind of like body pump.
My least favorite. It's just like, a waste of time.
So it's like the sushi burger. Yes, you're eating. So with like body pump, yes, you're like exercising. But it's a worse version.
It's in like the least productive way possible.
It's like a worse version of resistance training and a worse version of cardio. Like you would better off just be going and doing like more, basic resistance training, like in the more traditional format, and then doing just some straight up cardio. Like doing those two things separate, then like really light resistance training, and now you're doing all these reps and like with no rest, and then you're getting fatigued, and then your form could go, and it just becomes kind of like cardio, but now it's cardio with a bunch of like joint, like you're kind of like pounding your joints away. It's It's a sushi burger.
Don't be a sushi burger.
Don't be a sushi burger.
There's too many things like that where they try to combine. Or you know what gets me? You know, like the milkshakes where they have like a whole freaking cake on the side of the milkshake.
It's like apple pie milkshake.
I hate it. Yeah. I would much rather just have
an apple pie or a vanilla milkshake with apple pie.
Dude, just give me a chocolate milkshake and that's it. Mm-hmm. I don't need a whole like slice of cake and a cookie in it. Like, it's just such a weird way to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want all that. But that's how those places are.
Blended up like the milkshake, then it's like, well, you're not even getting the texture benefits, right?
No.
Or the different, it's just, I don't know. Give me honestly, dude, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, I have a hard time choosing because I kind of like all three of them equally in milkshake.
I like strawberry the least, but the other two I would have,
Yeah.
Strawberry milk.
That sushi burger, dude.
Sushi burger. That's a letdown.
Now I'm thinking about it, I'm getting angry.
Yeah, well, you don't need to do that.
The bun was like rice. Just crumbled.
Well, dude, I saw a video. This dude took pizza, cut circles out of it, and made the pizza the bun of the hamburger.
I've seen that.
And if I'm being honest, I don't think it would do it for me.
No, because the bun is there to play a supporting role to the burger
and the toppings.
It's like a texture thing, right? And then when the bun is a burger, when the bun is a pizza, it's like too strong. It's like going to compete too much, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not going to actually absorb. It's just, it makes me so angry.
Yeah.
And again, this is how you know. People will be excited to do it once because of novelty, but then 7 years later, are they going in and ordering? Is this a cultural staple?
They're getting a burger.
Nah, they're getting a burger with
a brioche bun.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we got burgers this weekend. We went out for my birthday. Have you been to Repeal in Virginia Beach?
Nah.
Like this, dude. This is like they do it right. They literally they have appetizers and stuff. They literally just serve burgers. That's it. And they got signs. They're like, we don't serve chicken wings.
Yeah.
We don't serve chicken tenders. All of this stuff. Like, they know what they're good at. They do it well. They're all like still burgers at heart, even though they have different toppings and stuff. And they don't try to like reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
They just execute like very, very well. They have that and they have whiskey. And that's the whole thing. And it was, dude, it was good. I would go back. So just get a really good burger.
Mm.
When you execute the basics really, really well, like, you can't beat it.
Where do you think that came from? Like, what? You watch these like restaurant shows where they fix the restaurants, and you see it obviously started in like the 80s, 90s, where like they'd have like 300 menu items and all this
Cheesecake
shit. And then when you really
menu.
think now, and you're like, well, then you need all those. You need to be able to have the skill to prepare them all. You need all those ingredients. The reality is then you can't really like...
It's the least efficient way to do things.
Exactly.
And you're not going to be good at all of those.
Yeah.
That's like... I hope everybody realizes this, but that's like red flag number one in a restaurant. If the menu is like a book, go, just leave. Nothing's going to be good.
Yeah. And you see it with everything, like the gym, right? Like, it used to be like, let's be everything to everyone. But the reality is we can't. Like, if someone comes to our gym and they're like, I want to do CrossFit, we're like...
There's a place down the street that I can send you.
Know, or if hey, I'm a young athlete or this or that. And the reality is not that we wouldn't actually be capable of providing that. It's just that like we just want to focus on hey, we help people 40 to 60 that want to improve their body composition and get stronger.
And we lean into that,
and we can then be really good at that, right? And provide that, and have no problem turning away people that don't. That's not their goal, so that we can then better serve the people who it is their goal.
So we're not trying to please everybody.
Like, if I want a burger, I'll go to a burger place, and they're going to be able to do it the best versus a restaurant that has burger and lasagna and sushi and all this.
Yeah, and seafood. And you're like, what are you doing? How can you even be good at all that stuff?
Yeah.
And that's why you'll notice at really nice restaurants, the reason they have 7 things on the menu is because every one of those things is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's not going to be anything on that menu that's subpar because of that. So,
sushi burger.
Don't go someplace that has a lot of choices. Don't get a sushi burger. Also, they have sushi burritos too. Haven't gotten one, but I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because part of sushi is the portion, right, is like perfect.
Yeah, no, it all combines, right, for that bite.
But then if you have a whole burrito that's like giant, it's the wrong. It's the wrong proportion for that meal. Mm-hmm. So it just, I don't think it would do very well. You get just a giant hunk of fish.
It's like the and I've been there to the state fair, and they'll have like the burger and the bun is like a Krispy Kreme donut. You know, so that's a novelty, right? And
I've done it, and
I was like,
it's disappointing.
Damn, I would have rather just had a donut.
Yeah.
Or just had a burger.
Yeah.
But again, and when you're selling novelty, which I get maybe then like at a fair, okay, but man, yeah, when you see it leak into people's mindset, it really helps prevent you from, again, developing habits, right? Well, let's go back to like the hand wash, what they pitted the health thing, like going to the gym, against hand washing, right? So that's the other thing. It's probably easier for people to develop that habit because they're okay with it not having it's, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be exciting.
It's just washing your hands, just something you do.
Yeah.
There's a zero novelty associated with it. We're not trying to make hand washing any more fun.
Yeah.
No one is. We've accepted what it is,
yep.
and it's fine as a society. And that's what we got to do with most things. It's
interesting, too. I've been like, because we're going to have the babies soon, baby, singular. And, so you do little stuff. And I've read a bunch on, they talk about like the toys and how the kids do better with less toys, or if you're going to have a bunch, then only like have so many available to them, and you rotate them in and out, and that they found that like they actually play longer, they have like more fun, they get more out of it when they have less options and less toys and less novelty.
I think we can all take something from that because we have too many options. There's too much information. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice when there's just nothing.
Yeah, they basically end up overwhelmed when they have too much. They're like overstimulated,
which all of us are.
Yeah.
So just cut down on your toys.
Yep.
I think that'll do it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people like have had it happen, right? Like with even like personal hobbies, you can feel like there's a million different things to do, which there are, and then you just dabble and you never actually get good at anything to truly enjoy it, right? That's why a lot of times I know, like, for example, like golf, right? I golfed enough when I was younger to know what goes into it. And when people are just like, oh, you want to casually go golfing, I'm just like, no.
I don't want to.
Because it's not going to be fun. And then I know if I want to for it to be fun, I have to
invest
a lot of time and stuff into it. And I would prefer not to, right? So I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I'll do something that I know takes less. I can have more fun and less involvement, to get going. And, I know for me, like, that actually is a mind, when you get, same thing with fitness, right? Man, there's some cool fitness sports, but I know the time and effort and skill acquisition
and risk
required
associated.
And risk to where I can watch it and appreciate it
and not want to do it,
and I don't need to like decide tomorrow that I want to like go compete in that or do that. So there you have it with our tangent.
Really got away from it there.
How long does it take to form a habit? Well, it depends on what it is.
Yeah, if we're talking working out, it's more than 21 days,
and if it's a health habit, it's probably more like 6 months.
Yeah, so just set that expectation and be cool with it. It is a little slow. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to have a switch flip to where you're like, oh, I just go to the gym all the time and I'm good. Like,
you're not going to gut it out.
Nah.
Like, I'm going to go, if I can just go 21 days in a row.
That doesn't help anything. If you've learned anything this episode, is it's just more having consistency is really what matters the most. And the number of days a week that is largely irrelevant in terms of it sticking.
Yeah. What's more important is actually being consistent with those days and extra points.
Show up on a Monday.
Yeah, show up on a Monday.
That's actually what I took from this. You should start on Monday.
Yeah. Or, again, my biggest takeaway is if you're someone who's starting at zero or struggles to be consistent, just commit to going once a week on a
Monday.
And if you end up going more, which you probably will because of the way it seems to work psychologically.
Bonus,
but just set yourself with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good mindset to have. So,
all right. That's it. We appreciate you for listening.
All right, we'll catch you next time. As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.